Good day, viewers. This is Ademola Johnson. In our previous video, we were talking about flower. We're talking about placentation in flowering plants. Today, we want to look at something different, still in the same line. That is pollination. Please share this video, like it, and subscribe to my YouTube channel, which is titled Ademola Johnson. So you can look for it and download and get access to some of the work we have done so far. We have over 80 videos there that will benefit you. So as we go on, what is pollination? Pollination is the transfer of pollen grains from anther to stigma. In human being, pollination is what is similar to mating. A male and female mating and ejaculation taking place. So now, what are the types of pollination we have? Types of pollination. Or before that, before talking about types, let's look at agents of pollination. Pollinating agents. Agents of pollination. Now, common agents of pollination are 1. Insects. 2. Wind, water, birds, etc. Now let's look at insect pollinated flowers. Fishes of insects pollinated flowers. I want you to take note of one thing here. Insect pollinated flowers are called entomophilous flower. What are they called? They are called entomophilous flowers. The word ento comes from the word entomology. Entomology is a branch of biology that deals with the study of insects. Now, they have the following features. They have the following features. Number one, they have conspicuous or attractive and colorful what? Colorful petals. The petals are attractive to attract the insects. Number 2, they have nectary tubes. Nectary tube to feed the insects. So the major food that is bringing the insect close to the flower is what? Nectar, and it is produced by the nectary tube. Number 3, they have scented petals. The petals produce beautiful scents, and this scent can attract insects. Now, they have elaborate petals to how to enclose or house the insects. So the petals are big enough that the insect can stay inside unnoticed. Then the stigma, the anthers are sticky. So the anthers are sticky. They may stuck to the body of the insect, and when that one flies to another flower, then it is transferred, and so on and so forth. Then what about wind pollinated, wind or water pollinated flowers? Now, wind pollinated flowers are called what? Anemophilous. They are called anemophilous flowers. While water pollinated flowers are called hydromophilous. Hydromophilous flowers. Okay? Now, fissures. Their fissures are as follows. Number one, they lack colorful petals. They lack colorful or attractive or conspicuous petals. What are they? That's why they cannot attract insects. So now, two, they have their styles hung outside the flower. So the styles are hung outside, so that if wind is blowing, the pollen grain is coming, can easily take it. So number three, their flowers are not elaborate. They have elaborate flower. They lack scent. They lack nectar. They lack nectar or nectar tube. They don't have it. So the next one is that their pollen grains are light. Very light, that they can be transported by the wind or by the water. They can float. So their pollen grains are light. Now note, dicotyledonous flowers are often entomophilous flowers, while flowers of monocotyledon, cotyledonous plants are anemophilous or hydromophilous. Take note. So we can now go to types of pollination. Types of pollination. Types of pollination. There are two types of pollination. And these two types of pollination are, you have self-pollination and you have cross-pollination. What did I call it? You have self-pollination and you have what? And you have cross-pollination. Now, what do we mean by self-pollination? Now, there are two types of pollination. What are they? These are: one, self-pollination; two, cross-pollination. So let's take them one after the other to talk about them. What do we mean by self-pollination? Self. Now, self-pollination. In human being, you can liken this one to mean siblings getting married to each other. So, this is the transfer of pollen grains from the anther of a flower to the stigma of the same flower, or the stigma of another flower on the same parent plants. What do I mean? If this is a parent plant, for example, it's a parent plants. This is flower A. Then this is flower B. And this is anther. This anther, and this is what? Stigma. This is anther, and this is a stigma. Now, if pollen grains from here comes here, the pollen grain coming from here to serve the stigma of the same flower, self-pollination. It is also possible for the pollen grains to live here and come and serve the stigma of another flower, flower B. But provided that the two flowers are on the same plant, it is still what? Self-pollination. So let's look at advantages and disadvantages. Number one. Now, in self-pollination, pollen grains are conserved. They are not wasted. Unlike cross-pollination, that a pollen grain needs to travel from Benin to Okada. Along the way, something can happen to the pollen grain, but see the movement is short. So the pollen grains are saved. Their numbers, they are conserved. Now, that's an advantage. Then what is a disadvantage here? A disadvantage here is that Continuous self-pollination can lead to the production of weakened progeny that cannot withstand adverse environmental factors can be produced. Now let's look at floral devices. Floral devices favoring self-pollination. Floral devices favoring self-pollination. What do we mean? We mean the structure or the nature of the flower that will make self-pollination to always be taking place. This means the structure or the adaptation, the structural adaptation or adaptive features of flowers that make them always carry out self-pollination. So these features are number one is called homogamy. Number two is called cleistogamy. Now what is homogamy? Homo means the same. Homogamy. This is a floral device whereby both the stamen and the carpel of the same flower or of different flowers on the same plants, or of different flowers on the same plants, on the same parent plants, get mature at the same time. So if the stamen, which is the male reproductive structure producing polygrain, and the stigma of the carpel that want to receive the polygrain, the two of them might get mature at the same time. Nothing stops them from getting married, nothing stops them from carrying out pollination, and they pollinate one another. Then the other one is cleistogamy. This one is also homogamy. This is a special kind of homogamy in which both the stamen and the carpel of a bisexual flower which gets mature at the same time are enclosed within a closed type of flower. It is common to the flower of Crotalaria retusa. So it's a closed flower. If you don't open the flower, you won't see the carpel, you won't see the stamen. So the flower is already closed. So when both the carpel and the stamen gets mature and the stamen releases its polygrain, So there is a blockage. The pollen grain cannot go outside the flower. Then it doesn't have any option than to do what? To pollinate the stigma inside the same bisexual flower. So now, let's go on now to cross-pollination. 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 Now, this is the transfer of pollen grains from the anther of a flower to the stigma of the flower of another plant of the same species with the plants whose flower releases the pollen grain. What am I trying to say here? Cross-pollination is the transfer of pollen grains from the anther of a flower to the stigma of the flower of another plant. But that another plant must be of the same species with the what? With the plant that produces the what? The pollen grain. Now let's look at the advantages. Advantages and disadvantages of cross-pollination. Number one, talking about the advantage now. The weakness of self-pollination is the strength of cross-pollination. The one of the weakness is that continuous self-pollination leads to weakened individual. So cross-pollination here leads to the production of strong progeny due to what? Due to genetic recombination. So cross-pollination leads to genetic recombination. The gene that is not good, that is weak in this one plant, is mixed with the gene that is good in another plant, and they come together. That luckily the one with a good strength forms a dominant character, and the individual progeny becomes what? A stronger one. Now, number two, there can be wastage. Pollen grains are not conserved. Number two, in cross-pollination, there is high risk. There is high risk of pollen wastage. Imagine if a pollen grain is to be released in Sapler Road to go and pollinate a flower in Okada. Before it gets there, somebody would have swallowed it up at Kada Fry, and it is wasted. It might not get to its destination because the distance between the two parent plants now is now a barrier. It's a problem. So let's look at floral devices. Floral devices. Floral devices favoring cross-pollination. Now, the various floral devices favoring pollination are, number one, opposite of homogamy is dichogamy. But before that, let's look at unisexuality. Unisexuality. Number two, we have self-incompatibility. Self-incompatibility or self-sterility. Number three, we have dichogamy, opposite of homogamy. So let's look at the first one, unisexuality. Unisexuality. This is a floral device in which a particular flower only naturally contains stamen or carpel. So that's where the one that contains stamen is called staminate flower, while the one that contains carpel is called pistillate flower. So now, when staminate flower produces its pollen grain, the pollen grains locate. There is no now. So when pollen grains are produced by stamen of a unisexual flower, the stamen of unisexual flower then what happens? There is no stigma in the same flower to receive the pollen grains, except it is used to pollinate a foreign plant of the same species. Take note of that. So that is that. Now the second one is self-incompatibility. Self-incompatibility. So we call it sterility. Self-sterility. Now this is a floral device. A floral device in which the pollen grains of a flower is injurious to the stigma of the same flower or of different flower on the same plants. What do we mean by that? When we were young, in those days in secondary school, some of our colleagues will say, no, they cannot marry somebody from the same class. They can't marry somebody from their street. That is self-incompatibility. You can't marry your own until you go and marry outsider. That is self-incompatible. You are not compatible with your own. So the pollen grains produced by the anther of a flower, if it lands on the stigma of the same flower or the stigma of another flower on the same plant, that landing will cause injury to the stigma and the flower will be destroyed. That is until, so the pollen grain, when it is landed on the stigma of another plant or the same species, then it will be compatible with that one. So that is a floral device. That is self-incompatibility. Now, lastly, before we draw the curtain, we look at the third floral device, that is dichogamy. This is a floral device. A floral device in which both the stamen and the carpel of the same bisexual flower or of different flowers on the same parent plant get mature at different time. That's why it is opposite of homogamy. So it's just like in those days, it is possible for a boy and a girl to be boyfriend and girlfriend in secondary school, and they will have the plan to get married to one another in the future. But as time goes by, their destiny changes. One of them gains admission before the other. What happens? And gets somebody that is more suitable than the other one and gets married to that one. So that is exactly what we are talking about here. They are ready at different times. The one that gets admission first becomes ready faster than the other one, still looking for admission. So that one is not ready for marriage, then he gets married to another person that is ready. So when the carpel and the stamen of the same flower or of different flowers on the same plant get mature at different time, dichogamy is said to have taken place. Now, types of dichogamy. There are two types of dichogamy. These are: one, you have protogyny, and two, you have protandry. Now let's take them one by one. What is protogyny? Now, this is a floral device in which the carpel gets mature earlier or faster than the stamen. So now, before the stamen gets mature, what happens? The stigma would have received polygrain from another plant of the same species. Like I've been saying, a boy and a girl, they are dating, and one gets to the university before the other. So before the other one that is still looking for admission will be ready to even enter school, then the lady sees another man that is ready for marriage, and she hooks up to that one, and so that time now the lady is said to have matured faster than the man. The same thing is here. When the carpel gets mature faster than the stamen, so it would have received only grains from another plant before the stamen of the same flower now gets mature. Then the other one is protandry. Now this is a floral device in which the stamen gets mature faster or earlier than the carpel of the same flower or of different flowers same plants. So when the stamen, which is the male reproductive structure, gets mature faster or earlier, so in that case, the stamen would have finished shedding away releasing all its polygrains to another plant of the same species before the carpel of the same bisexual flower or of different flower on the same parent plants get mature. So that's protogyny. Protogyny has to do with the situation whereby the male reproductive structure, which is the stamen, gets mature earlier than the female reproductive structure. So, and as that happens, when it gets mature, it releases its polygrains. So it must have finished releasing all its polygrains to a foreign plant of the same species before the carpel is now mature to receive. So nothing to receive again, rather than for the carpel now to expect a polygrain from another plant. Then cross-pollination would have said to have what? To have been favored. So, and this marks the end of this class. In the next class, we look at double fertilization in flowering plants. So if there's any question, drop it in the comment section. Let's talk. And if there's any challenge, let me know in the comment section. If you have nothing to say, just encourage me in the comment section. And please try to share this video, like it, go to my YouTube channel and subscribe. And have access to a lot of videos we have produced there that will benefit you. Knowledge is power. Get it. And it will be useful to you. See you next time. I remain my humble self, Afe Ademola Johnson. God bless you and bye for now. Thank you.